Hi guys, and welcome to Cinema Freaks. Today we're talking about a little piece of science fiction called Blade Runner, a film that I really didn't enjoy my first viewing, to be entirely honest. I know what you're gonna say, classic piece of science fiction, how could I not like it? Believe me, I know. Being the cinema freak that I am though, I decided to give it another go, and with its sequel just around the corner, it seemed as good a time as any to review it. After my second viewing of the film, I have to say I actually enjoyed it a lot. I sat down, dimmed the lights, and pulled out my trusty little notepad to take notes. One thing I noticed upon my second viewing is the more you pay attention, the more you would get out of this film. Which was my mistake the first time. I didn't give the film the attention that it deserved. I missed key moments, story beats, and the nuances that make the film great. Though I should mention that on my first viewing I watched the original theatrical version, which was very slow and difficult to follow. This time I decided to watch the final cut version. Now for those of you who don't know, Blade Runner is a film directed by Ridley Scott starring Harrison Ford, Rutger Hauer, and Edward James Olmos. The film is based on a novel written by Philip K. Dick called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? His books have been adapted in several films, such as the 2002 film Minority Report, directed by Steven Spielberg, and the classic 1990 Total Recall starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Without giving too much away, the basic plot of this film is about an ex-police officer of sorts by the name of Rick Deckard, Harrison Ford's character. Deckard was a Blade Runner, a specialized unit within the police department that tracks down bioengineered beings known as replicants and terminates them, or rather, as they put it, retires them. Deckard is brought back into the fold when three Nexus 6 model replicants who only have a 4-year lifespan return to Earth from an off-world space station in search of a way to extend their lives, and the story unfolds from there. I'm going to start with the good things in this film because there's a lot. As in standard Ridley Scott fashion, the visuals of this film are absolutely amazing. I have to say the cinematography in no way disappoints. The vast cityscapes are utterly breathtaking. Scott does a phenomenal job creating the vast futuristic neo-noir world of the film. The sets are amazingly complex and intricate. I love the close quarters, urban, lived-in look of futuristic Los Angeles.
Futurist Sid Mead was one of the great illustrators of industrial objects, cars, electric irons, apartments, skyscrapers, cityscapes, urban development. And I looked at this, looking at them as if they were fantasy. Now, Sid was actually a great preview on where we've gone now in Tokyo. I've just been to Shanghai. In Shanghai, certainly, the way the urban development is going, Sid absolutely had it nailed. And I didn't know that at the time. I just felt he did. And I brought him in for a meeting and said, look, we got to do it this way. I'm going to be on the back lot. We've got to do the best we can. We have a limited budget. I can't make things like Stanley took at the time. I think 2001 for the time was expensive, but he'd actually made everything, included the centrifuge wheel, and it all worked. And I would never have the budget to do that. That's why the idea of retrofitting things came about. It would have to be retroed to the surface of the backlot, which had traditional buildings, upon which we would put pipes and ducts and air conditioning. Necessity, we actually kind of started to design it that way.
I can't talk about this film and not mention the score because it is great. The score was composed by Van Giles, who was known for composing the classic Cosmos TV series hosted by Carl Sagan, along with working almost exclusively with electronic instruments. He uses an amazing combination of classical composition and synthesizers to create a new and futuristic sound, while at the same time incorporating a classic jazz feel. I have to praise Van Giles, no one else could have done a better job than him. The characters in this film are great. They are expertly established and extremely well developed. Especially Deckard. Harrison Ford does a spectacular job portraying a stoic, lonely, and tortured character who drinks too much. Deckard is very reminiscent of characters of old, such as Humphrey Bogart's character in the classic film Casablanca. Deckard has layers, as with many noir-esque characters. Next, I'd like to talk about the film's main antagonist, Roy, portrayed by Rutger Hauer. Roy is the leader of the renegade band of Nexus 6 model replicants. The thing I love about this character are his motivations. His quest to extend his life was very realistic and also very human. Even though he was a replicant and not a human at all, he had great rages and melancholies along with those occasional psychotic outbursts. He was very much driven by his emotions. I honestly have almost no complaints about this film. My issues were mainly with the original theatrical cut. and that was because of the slow pacing and difficult to follow plot, as I stated earlier. The final cut really took care of most of those issues, and in my opinion, it had a much better ending. It was more open-ended and left things up to your imagination. All that isn't to say that this version isn't slow, because it is, and if you're not a big fan of those kind of movies, then you'll definitely not be a fan of this one. So in summary, Blade Runner is amazingly complex with many nuances that make the film great. It has a classic noir feel with a futuristic twist. The film has a vast and futuristic world due to its spectacular art direction. You could watch this film for that reason alone. With the film's complex sets and attention to detail, not one thing is out of place. The cinematography is just mesmerizing. The stunning cityscapes and the neon-lit city streets of futuristic Los Angeles. And finally, the film has a great original score and well-developed and complex characters. I highly recommend this movie to anyone who considers him or herself a fan of cinema or classic science fiction. And even if you aren't a huge fan of any of those, it's definitely worth a watch. Now I'm gonna go watch some more movies so I can talk about them, because you guys have no lives, but hey, I don't judge, I'm right there with you. If you guys like this video, comment, like, and please subscribe. Also check out our latest video on Birdman.